All right, welcome back to another episode of Love Means Business, where we talk about the intersection of life, love, and leadership, and how our hardest lessons often become the very foundation of our purpose. Today's guest is someone who embodies that transformation so beautifully. Welcome, Ranika. I'm so excited to have you here. So, she is the founder of Ranika Speaks LLC, an event facilitation company that helps businesses, nonprofits, and communities create meaningful conversations that connect and inspire action. But before you built a business around elevating voices and fostering connection, you had to find your own voice and you had to really walk through a lot of different things, learn a lot of different things, and even had an experience with not the healthiest relationship, right?
Absolutely.
So, today we're going to talk about how you broke free of that, how you found your voice again, and how you now are using that, all those lessons, all those things to help others rise. Just you've done this so beautifully, and I'm excited to dive in and really learn more. Okay. So are you ready?
I'm ready, especially here with you, Emily. I'm ready.
Yes. Okay. So I want to start kind of at the beginning of your story. So before you're in this beautiful space now and all the incredible work you're doing today, can you take us back to the season of your life where you found yourself in a toxic or unhealthy relationship, however you want to say it? What was it like for you at the time?
Yeah, absolutely. So before this time, what kind of launched me into this time is I got married pretty young, I guess in my eyes, right? Early 20s, barely out of my teens, and so just found myself in a very difficult and toxic marriage, and, we have 5 amazing children together, and it was just difficult. One of the things I will say is I grew up in a pretty tumultuous childhood home, and
Okay.
so for me, some things were quote unquote normal. So just the kind of emotional things, neglect, financial abuse, all these things I didn't have access to, while also continuously giving birth to children, right? It was just really
Yeah.
difficult.
That's a lot of kids. That's a
Exactly.
lot of birthing.
Especially yeah. So it's very isolating, it's very lonely.
Yeah.
Very trying to figure out what is happening while also taking care of young people,
Yeah.
little people, while I'm also very young and still trying to figure out things. Just difficult and a lot of loss of identity and self because you're just trying to keep yourself safe. So you're like, okay, what do I need to do today to be safe? What do I need to say today? Where do I need to walk today? What do I do? Did I clean up enough? All the things. What do I need to do to be safe in this space? So it's just walking on eggshells, scared, difficult, just hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Many people find themselves in situations that look like love, but can slowly kind of strip away your identity, sometimes your confidence. What are some of those early signs that you saw that things just weren't quite right? And then what finally kind of helped you break free from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the deep internal sense of a loss of self, of what is my baseline, and that not being there. So I'm generally, for the most part, pretty like excited about life, excited about things. And that was not my norm anymore. My
Yeah.
norm was more of survival, the feeling of isolation. The feeling of like I could not tell other people what was happening because of embarrassment, because of fear of whatever. So just that fear of I can't tell my closest friends what's actually happening. So even though I probably couldn't verbalize it as that, just the fear of that I could tell them
Yeah.
everything except this part was that not having access to finances. So not being able to
Yeah.
see the accounts, having to ask permission to buy things, not being able to do those things as an adult, right? So those were some of the things I had to make sure, at least in my mind, right? Making sure that if this is in order, then maybe, all hell won't break loose. Or if this is, so just trying to make sure all the pieces were right to create peace. So if all the external things were right, maybe the internal piece would happen. So it's just really just this on eggshells, feeling isolated, feeling like I can't tell anyone. And with my friends, we're pretty open. And
Pretty
so,
open. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
That's so interesting. Definitely, I can relate to that with my
Yeah.
own story. And a lot of people I've talked to that have been in controlling relationships, isolation is almost always part of it. It's like, do they have some kind of like playbook that we just don't know about where they're like, I'm going to isolate them. But I think that does make us also feel like no one maybe will help us to break free. And that's not true. That was the lie that I feel like I had in my head for a really long time. Like, no, I'm not sure anyone will help me. Or I
Yeah.
don't know, or constantly also questioning if what I thought was going on was actually real. Like, I felt
Yes.
crazy. And yeah, you feel like real crazy until you get out, and then you're like, you feel crazy that you thought crazy. Like, how did
Right,
you believe it?
right, right. Well, that's a part of that because you're isolated, and if that's what you're being told and there's no one else
Yeah.
to combat those thoughts, then you start to believe it, right? So that
Yeah.
makes so much
Yeah. Yeah, the isolation does play into that, you're absolutely right, and because if you aren't having outside people that you can talk to, then they can have that complete control over your mind, your soul, your body, your finances, everything, and it's for me, it was when I had these little glimmers of interactions outside that
Yes.
I started to have this dissonance, and I'm like, "Wait, that's not
Yep.
normal, like, my friend's family doesn't do this."
Yeah,
Or you know what I mean? Like, you
yeah.
start did you have things like that too?
Yeah, so the second part of your question was what pulled you out of that? I would
Yeah,
love to say it was me because I just woke up one day and said, "This is not okay." But it was really friends. So it was getting to the point of I would start to tell stories and I would tell them as if they were normal, and they were like, Renika, that
yeah,
doesn't sound like that. Something is wrong there." And so they would little by little tell me things and I would share more. And I think the comfort of someone else telling me, hold up, something doesn't feel right. So putting words to what I was feeling was extremely helpful for me. So it really was the friends who were around me once I started to talk, right? Um, and I think I got to such a place where, like, I couldn't hold the pieces together, right? I'm the one that thinks, like, I can hold all the pieces together, and it came to a point where I just couldn't. Everything was falling down, and thank God, because thank
yeah,
God it all fell apart because people around me saw, "Look, this is falling apart." And I will say that's not always everybody's story, right? Where they have people around them to come and
yeah.
tell them, and so that's something that, yeah, I'm really grateful for. Absolutely.
That's it. Yeah, same. The friends that helped me in that season of my life are family for me now. Like, they have become more than that.
Absolutely.
It's because when people see you at your, because that was my lowest I've ever been,
Yeah,
going through all of that and love you no matter what, help you. I don't know. There's a level of trust and
yeah.
love there that I just can't even put into words.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I do wanna say this, not to prolong it, but I do wanna say when we talk about being in those relationships and not wanting to tell people, I do think now that I look back, a big part of that was, well, I'm educated and I communicate with people really well and I do really well in all these other areas of my life. And so I think the embarrassment of, but I
Yeah.
can't get this part right, you know?
That's a good point. I think women too that have really pushed themselves and are successful in a lot of areas sometimes. I shouldn't just say women, maybe men have felt this way too in these kind of relationships, but
Mhm.
I'm a woman, so I don't know how it is to be a
Right.
man. Um, I agree with you. It also, there's almost like a shame or
Mhm.
yeah, like you said, like, well, I'm so good at all these other things, or I got my shit together. That
Exactly.
you don't want to seem like you don't, but I also think that is sometimes why it's harder for women like that or men like that to get out, because everything you're so used to controlling and being in control and like, "I got this," and you don't have it. This is one thing that you don't got, you don't have it.
You
It's
don't.
hard to admit. Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing that up because I think a lot of people can relate to that. So, getting a little bit out of this part, it's really really cool or incredible to me how sometimes our deepest pain, these
Yeah,
rock bottom moments or these things we go through that we wouldn't wish on our worst enemy, right? They can become the platform for our greatest purpose. And I
yeah.
know it has for me. It's why I'm so incredibly passionate about helping other people shine, helping them control their narrative, their voice. And I know that's exactly how you are and what you've done as well. So you've really turned your healing into a movement of helping others connect and lead and communicate. So tell me, kind of walk me through that of how you went through all this and how that kind of has turned into this fuel for your fire.
Yeah, absolutely. So once I left that marriage, the quick story is me and my kids, I was pregnant with my fifth. We had to leave, ended up sleeping on a friend's floor for 7 months and basically kind of had to start over from ground zero, if you
Yeah.
will, literally the
Yeah.
ground. And so through that, just by people really rallying around me and my kids, I can't express that enough. Was able to get a job, rent a home, eventually buy a home, just God's good grace over our lives. I went into tech. So first of all, I need to say when I left, I was like, I need to know everything there is about my brain, about abuse, about choices that I've made, because now I have 5 children and I need to teach them
Yeah.
how to function, how to do. I didn't exactly know what I needed, but I started taking these classes. So I took a class through the Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau on that just so I could learn about my story. I took free counseling through the county and got counseling from my kids. I did everything I could that was free so that I could at least learn what was happening. And that was so helpful for me because I had started to learn, okay, this is what was going on. This is what was happening. I'm not losing my mind. So that was super important for me and my healing and also for me to help my children. And then one of the things I wanted to do is I was like, I want to go into tech. If I want to see something different, I need to do something different. And I remember standing in the kitchen of this house and there was a program that I heard about on this podcast that I listened to all the time, Anthony O'Neill. And I remember like, Lord, I have 5 kids and I'm talking about going back to school and I have a job. No way this will work. And I'm like, I'm just asking you to make a way. So they gave me I called them, they gave me a free scholarship to go and
Wow.
UX design. Yeah. And it was all because of my story. The story that I'm
Wow.
embarrassed about, the story of being a Black single mom with 5
Wow.
kids, the very story that I was ashamed of is the story that got me into tech. So,
Feel like you need to say that again. Like, that
yes,
is for
yes,
people that are embarrassed to share their story, that is the
yes,
power of it. Like, if
yes.
you hadn't shared it, you would not be where you
I would
are.
not. The shame of my story turned into something amazing just because I told it. And I wasn't
Yeah,
telling it to, but I'm like, this is where I am. I can't afford this. And they were so blown away by the story and by the fact that I was trying to do something different. They were like, this is what our mission is about. And we want to help people like you. And I was like,
amazing.
thank you so much. So I went through that program, the UI UX design program. 5 months later, I was able to get a job in tech. And then I went on the very podcast that I was looking at about this tech program. He had me come on the Anthony O'Neill show, and I talked about just being a single mom and how that changed the trajectory of my life and going into tech. And then after that podcast, so many other women reached out and said, I'm a single mom of one, I'm a single mom of three, and I've been in an abusive
Wow.
relationship. So I just started doing classes for women, led one at my church, did one online with people from around the states just because I wanted to give people resources. Because once I left that relationship, I didn't quite know where to go. You go over here to get counseling. We need food. I just wanted to give resources and I wanted people to know signs that they can look
Yeah,
out for. And that was the start of Ranika Speaks, was me just working with women, which eventually turned into me working with organizations and providing these meaningful conversations. Yeah.
that is that is really powerful, inspiring, all the things. And also, I mean, like, no excuses. Like, you
Yeah.
could have had so many different excuses in
Yeah.
all of in a lot of those different, like, situations, and
Yeah.
you just bulldozed right through them. What gave you, I don't know if it's confidence or courage or what the right word is, but what how did you do that? Like, was there anything that you can pinpoint that gave you that courage to just be like, "I'm not gonna accept excuses," you
Yeah.
know?
I can't pinpoint a ton, but I will tell you, I think because I've thought about it, I think there is something to the amount of children that I have that gave me, I'm serious, that
Yeah.
gave me the boost to say,
Yeah.
this is a lot of kids and you need to get up and do something. And so I don't know, honestly, if it were me on my own, if I would still be in that relationship. But there's something about when you're looking at your legacy
Yeah.
people that you have to take care of that's like pushes you, and so, and I'm also a woman of faith, so I can never deny the hand of the Lord in my me and my kids' lives. I've seen miracles upon miracles that I could never explain. So yeah.
So your kids, it sounds like they really kind of were that motivation and inspiration and all of that. Do you feel like you guys were kind of like a team in a way? Or can you talk about that, especially for other moms that might listen to this and they're like, gosh, I just don't know. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know how I'm gonna do this with my kids, you know? Can you talk about how how, like, some of the day-to-day stuff was doing this with 5 children?
Yeah, Emily, that's such a great question. I've never been asked that question of like, did I feel like we were a team? Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I never thought about it like that. Yeah, that we were for sure a team going through this thing together, right? And trying to give them tools, but also listening to them, listening to each other. Lots of tears,
yeah,
right, amongst us, but also lots of joy. I'm from New Orleans, so there were nights where literally we would cry about something that happened, and then immediately after, we're dancing, we're praying about it, and so we have gone through this thing together, right? And without a doubt, right, we all are different, have different personalities, and they're gonna have their own issues and things that they've gone through coming from divorced parents, but
sure.
for sure an experience of living with a friend, we all did that together, to buying a new house. I have this great video I have to find when we bought this house of everybody just screaming. Hold on, now that you've gone around the house, what do you guys think of this house?
Yes!
Okay, what if I told you, hold on, go back. No, go back. What if I told you that, where's the keys? Tap, hold those keys up. This is our house. This is our house. This is our house.
This is our house!
This is our house.
This is our house! You what? This is our Wait, you're not
What a, like, just I don't know, a joyful moment for
Yeah,
you and your little team of
yeah,
kids, that you guys did that together because I think that, in families too, I feel like there really is that sense of togetherness and we can overcome this together and we're in this together and all of that. So
yeah.
I can only imagine if I interviewed your children, they'd be like so inspired and motivated by you. That's
Maybe they're
amazing.
teens now. I don't know. We'll see.
That's a whole vibe. My 11-year-old's
Some of
year old's
them are.
almost there.
No,
It's
but they're
scary.
incredible children. Really incredible. They really are. Yeah.
Well, we kinda went into the Ranika Speaks, journey into that. Is there anything else kinda that you would want to say about what inspired you, besides what you've already said, to create the company that you have? Any other of your personal experiences that really shaped what you're doing now?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I think just that motivation of wanting to give resources to people, I just immediately had this people need to know. As if they, there's not resources already out there. But I was like, people need to know the signs. They need to know. And I want to help other moms. So definitely a motivation for that. And then we talked about earlier how you lose yourself when you're in that type of
Yeah,
relationship. And so being apart from it, I came back to who I was. I'm a person who loves to learn about people. I'm a person who wants to go deeper than the surface. And I'm also a connector. I love seeing people come together. And so that's what my business does. At first, people would call on me to do keynotes and tell my story. And that was great, right? But also, I wanted to do something for other people and just around the world. And I think, especially in our climate today, it's been so wonderful to get people in a room physically who might not otherwise be together. And I get to do these meaningful conversations like Odd Can Unite, where we bring together strangers in Charlotte at different cafes and we commission an artist, we commission a chef. And from that artwork, we curate conversation that goes deeper. And absolutely love the work of seeing people who don't know each other come in the room and then leave and say, let's get
that's
coffee.
really
Maybe we should be friends. And so it just makes me feel like I'm doing something. I'm doing what I was created to do, because that's a gift in me, the gift of
yeah.
communication. and facilitation. And so I think us getting back to who are we and who are we created to be, especially after you leave a situation like that and you really don't know who you are and it takes you a while, some months and years.
Yeah.
But getting back to the core of who am I and what I get to think about what I like to do. I get to think
I
about
get to be who I want to be.
yeah,
Interesting. Who's that?
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I love that. So you have said, at least I think you said this. If you didn't say this, tell me that you didn't.
All right, I'll tell you.
Okay. You've said that your mission is to bring out the beauty in people. That's a really powerful statement. So
Absolutely.
what does that mean to you? And how do you see that come alive when you are facilitating conversations or working with different leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So someone called me, what did she call me? Like a spiritual doula or something. She talked about a doula,
Yeah.
right? Doula helps birth things out of people. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been called that. But I literally can look at someone or have a conversation with someone and I can see just something beautiful in them. Whatever it is, it could be a physical trait, it could be internal. Like Emily, I love your like go-getter spirit and you have an amazing smile that every time I see you that lights up a room. Like I see
Thank you.
that and I have no problem telling you. Like I have no problem telling anybody about the beauty that I see. And the way that helps me in my work is a lot of the work I do is I'm facilitating, right, these conversations, rooms with people. And so when we're in a room with people, I always think about it as music. I was in band, right? And so I think about it as people's voices are the instrument, and we all are in that room for this time, and your voice is your instrument and it matters. And so I want to hear your voice here, and even your silence matters. But can we pull that forth? Okay, you said this. And so I see it as making like this just beautiful music in a room when we hear people's opinions, people's backgrounds, and somehow we come together and make a beautiful song just by us being in the room together, choosing to be in the room, choosing to speak, and other people choosing to listen. And so that's how I think about pulling out the beauty in people and beauty in conversation. I think we underestimate hearing people talk, taking time to pause, allowing them to talk, and allowing people to respond. It creates a beauty because we're meant to connect. We're meant to be in community. It's just the way that we were created. So, yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I went on this whole journey in my head while you were talking and thinking of music and like people as
Yeah,
notes and stuff. You had me on a really
yeah,
interesting mental journey there. Thank you for that.
yeah, yeah.
But another thing that kind of jumped out at me when you said that, how you do see the good in people and,
Yeah.
thank you for the compliments. I'll always take those about myself.
It's true, and it's true. My compliments, I'm not just, like, saying it to say it.
I'll take it, whether it's true or not. I love it. Thank you. So, but one of the things that I find interesting is how our biggest strengths can also, on the flip side, be sometimes our weaknesses and sometimes are what gets us into trouble.
Yeah.
And with your story, you saying how you're so good at seeing the beauty and the good in people and bringing that out or digging that out. And I wonder, I wonder if that's also why you were in that relationship for a while because you can see the beauty in anybody. You know what I mean? Have you thought that or do you ever think that sometimes? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, right? So if I were to still continue with the analogy of an instrument, right? So I play the flute. You don't just pick up the flute and then you're good at it. Like you have to move that thing around. You have
Yeah.
to tune it and put it in tune. So I could say that thing about my gift of empathy, seeing beauty in people, right? At first, I just put my mouth on it and just blew and saw
Yeah.
everything, scratching everything, right? But now it's fine tuned, right? So now I know, okay, I can have this gift of seeing beauty in people, but now I'm also fine tuned to see, okay, but when is this hurting me? When is this not helpful to me? I can see beauty in you, but I can also see when something is hurting me and it's not good for me. So I'm not perfect at it, right? But it's definitely fine tuning that I have this gift now, how do I hone in this gift in a way
Yeah.
that it is good and it is not harmful to me or to other people? Yeah.
That was going to be my next question that you just answered. So I
Yeah.
was going to say, how have you kind of been able to fine tune that? Because I think it would be sad if someone had that gift and then felt like it was maybe taken advantage of or whatever, and then they just
Yeah.
like dimmed it and stopped doing it because
That
that's a
goes
gift. You don't, it's a gift that God
yeah,
gave you or whatever. Whoever you
yeah,
believe in gave you. So you don't want to not use it. But I think what you said is key. Like, but you do have to protect yourself because if you are somebody that maybe is more sensitive to that sort of thing, then on the flip side, you could see the good in like a lot of different people that might not be good for you. But I think you said it beautifully. And I hope someone listening or watching this will maybe hear this and be like, oh my gosh, that's me. And that is
yeah,
what I do, but I can fine tune it. I
yeah.
don't have to keep getting hurt.
I love that. That is such a good point because I've gone through that struggle of like, man, forget it. I'm just not.
Mhm.
But I realize like it's such a part of me. Like
Yeah,
empathy, care, love, all those things are such a part of me. So I said, you can't get rid of it, but you need to learn how to use it wisely. And I think too, the things that help me, right? Therapy. So my therapist can help me. Oh, maybe you cut that person off a little too much because of your trauma. Maybe you want to, or maybe
yeah,
no, that's not healthy. I have great friends around me, people that I trust around me. So there's ways we can use our instruments and our tools to say, okay, help me fine tune this. Do I feel like I'm in the ballpark? So yeah.
I love that. So you work with a lot of speakers and thought leaders, and you help them find their voice too. What would be like one piece of advice you'd give to someone who may be afraid to share their story? Maybe because they're still healing, or maybe they're worried their story's not perfect yet. Maybe they're even worried sharing it might cause issues with the person that did that to them. I don't know. There's a lot of reasons why people don't share their story, but what would be a piece of advice to help someone do that?
That's such a great question. So the first thing I would say is, I know we live in a world of like internet. Everybody has a story to tell. I would not advise somebody to tell their story when they're not ready to tell their story. So definitely, if you're not ready to tell it, and I'll say from my own personal experience, I'm not on podcasts telling parts of my story that I feel are still raw or I haven't really dealt with. The things that I'm sharing is like, okay, these are things I'm learning, and I think other people can learn from, and there's definitely other things that I'm still processing and working through. And I don't think we need to process everything in front of everybody. I think there are ways we can tell our story. So something like the Domestic Violence Speakers Bureau, or there's places around where you can learn to tell your story and to talk about your story in a way to do that. But I definitely advise if you have something that you can help somebody with and you are comfortable with that, to be able to share your story. And when it comes to other people, we don't definitely want to, I at least believe we don't want to say something where we're telling our story out of retribution, or we just need people to
Mhm.
know about this person was,
Yeah.
well, the story that I tell is about me and what I have learned and what I've learned from those. There's no malicious intent because I need to get somebody back. I don't think that is actually a part of my healing process, at least, because I think my story is about me, and what I have learned is not about retribution, not about hurt, but what are the things that I'm learning that can be helpful and healing to other people.
That yeah, I could not have said that better if yeah, that
Hmm.
was beautiful. And
Yeah,
because that's one of the things when I did my TEDx talk, The Weaponization of Love,
I
that was
bet.
the first time I had shared my story publicly. And what you said was exactly my thing. I wanted to help people with my story, but I didn't want to cause shame or blame on the people that had been part of that story, of the before I got, and I do think that if you're not healed from what you've been through, if you haven't done the work, I think it can be very hard to see clearly and be able to tell your story in a way that wouldn't do that. So I
Yeah.
would say that, like, for me, it was, 10, 15 years since it happened. I had a lot of therapy, a lot of
Right,
time to work
right,
on myself, and
right.
I felt like I had healed what I needed to. Like
Yeah,
you said, I wasn't doing it where I was like, "I'm gonna get them." But I do think if there's a part of you that is feeling that way,
yeah.
I would say maybe, like, take a pause and think, like, is there another way that you can let that out without doing it publicly? No, you might regret it because once it is out there, you can't take it back. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Even, Melissa Taylor's a part of my story, and so there are people you can tell your
Yeah.
story to and say, "Hey, what do you hear when I share this? I'm about to do this
Yeah.
podcast, and this is what I wanna share." So,
Yes.
I don't share story off of other people, and they might say, "Ah, maybe leave that part out," and,
Yes.
yeah.
100%. I mean, I sent my TEDx to so many of my close
Yeah,
friends,
there you go.
and it took me 4 rewrites to get to where I felt like, "Okay, this is what I wanna do. I don't feel, like, bad about this." It gets that message across, but also to your point too, it's like, it's about me. It's from
Yeah,
my perspective. I'm not saying what someone else felt or did. I'm saying how it felt to be me in the situation and what I learned. And I think that's also really important because when you start trying to put words in other people's, like trying to be somebody else, it's your story. Don't
yeah,
try to make it somebody else's.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, but
anyway,
it's a great question because I think it's something that we battle with of this is something that was really hard that happened. How do I honor everybody in my story? Or how do I it's a great
yeah,
question.
absolutely. So, one of the things I always like to ask people is what does love means business mean to you personally? That phrase mean to you?
Love means business. I love that. First of all, it for me it implies love is a very serious thing, and I think that it is. Love is extremely serious in terms of how we do that. There's a scripture in the Bible and it says it's something I'm paraphrasing. So it's something like let no debt be outstanding except the debt to love people. And
Ooh,
so yeah, that let
ooh,
if you're gonna have a debt, let that be the outstanding debt to love
yeah,
people. And so I think that was the first thing I thought of just with that question. And not to manipulate what love is, right? It's patient, it's kind, it's not rude, it's not self-seeking. And so not to manipulate what love is to fit our definition of what it is. And it's a selfless thing. And so I love that you're doing this because we don't talk about love enough. It's the most powerful force in the
it
universe.
is. The only tattoo I have on my body right now, make it more.
Yeah.
The word love, I got that when I was, like, 29 or 30. I think that love, it just has to constantly be a reminder to people, and I do think love is part of business because you can do what you love and, be what you love, all the things. I do that's my thing is if we can focus more on that and all the things that we do, it can't hurt, right? Can't
It
make it
can.
worse.
And
So,
in business, this is how I feel. I recently did a talk about this. A business always will boil down to people at the end of the day. We are
absolutely.
servicing people and the way that we treat people, the way that we, put products out, services out, they matter. And to do those things in love. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your sharing your story, all these amazing, amazing things. How can listeners and viewers, how can they connect with you, follow your work, or maybe even book some time to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Ranika Speaks everywhere. Ranika Speaks on Instagram, on Facebook, Ranika Chaney, and my website is ranikaspeaks.com. So I would love,
Pretty
love to connect with
pretty
you.
easy to
Yeah,
find.
it's easy.
That's good. It's not like a different one for each one because
No.
that can be confusing.
Yes, it can.
Well, thank you so much for being on here, being so transparent. I feel really inspired. I always feel inspired by you every time I talk to you. But today we got even deeper, which I loved. Your story really is a powerful reminder that our voices are not just for us surviving, they're for connection, impact, and healing. So, to everyone listening, remember your voice matters, your story matters, and your healing can help someone else find theirs. So, as always end it this way. Remember to keep loving, learning, and leveling up. Until next time.